Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Nancy Drew Season 1, the rewatch rundown review 2.0. So this is like the rundown review 2.0, because I did like an original rundown review like last year, no, maybe 2 years ago. I don't know how long this channel has been, but I did it about like 2 years ago, since they're in the third season. And so like after rewatching it, it's just kind of like, I still felt the same way I do before, but I just kind of wanted to recap a little bit more in certain things and kind of like miss opportunities that the show should have done, but they went in a Scooby-Doo kind of route in season 2 and a witch route in season 3. So I love season 1 of Nancy Drew. It was so good. Like, my God. Like, I remember when I heard about this, I had no idea what Nancy Drew even was. And so I saw the trailer. I'm like, oh, cool, a detective show. I can dig that. And I'm like, oh, wait, hold up. I'm thinking to myself, I think I have heard of Nancy Drew or an Inherited Spy. They're very similar. So I'm like, okay, so I knew what to expect. Like, I love those, like, hard-hitting gumshoe detective type shows, you know what I'm saying? And so when I watched the trailer, it had no ghost whatsoever in it. It was just like straightforward, and it was kind of like this weird clock type music that was in the background. So I watched the first episode. I thought it was really good. And then they got you with the whole, oh, there's a ghost in this show. I'm like, whoa, what's going on with this? But it's not just a ghost. It's like the ghost of somebody who's haunting her. So what's interesting is that this first season, it caused Nancy Drew. So Nancy Drew has never seen ghosts before when she was younger. And she was a kid detective and everything. And so, like, she's never seen ghosts. And then all of a sudden, um, this really famous woman who's really rich ends up murdered at the diner that she works at. And so like this murder led to like a old murder that happened 19 years ago. And so that was like really intriguing, I found. And the use of the ghost stuff that they did, it reminded me of The Ring. And I like The Ring, the first one. And so the second one I did not like, and I think they're gonna reboot it. So I'm not looking forward to that. But yeah, I like The Ring. I like that whole demonic ghost looking thing that they had in the show. I love how like the clues kept leading us to one mystery to another. I loved how Nancy Drew used to narrate for like the show, you know, because she used to do that like in the first season a lot. Then they stopped that in the second. I also liked how, just like a regular detective, they get certain clues and assumptions right and then they get them wrong. They always blaming people. And that's something she did in the first season. She blamed everybody for the murder of Tiffany Hudson. Then, when the murder of Lucy Sable came up, then she started blaming the adults and everything. And so this caused a lot of friction between her and her newfound friends that she have. And so like I kept finding all of that so intriguing and everything. And sometimes they did get a little too overboard. Like, you know, she'll go into her room and now she's in some type of like weird supernatural like realm or something like that. It was a bit much, but it was still to the confines of keeping it in a grounded show. And it was interesting. Then towards the end, when they had to summon this ancient like spirit demon thing, even though that was a little hokey, it was still interesting because this little demon thing wanted payback. And so it showed each and all of them how they're gonna get murdered. And the tagline for the next season was one of these people is gonna die. I was like, oh my God, I'm still hooked. I'm intrigued. And then so like I feel like season one was more grounded. It was more realistic, even though it had like ghosts here and there or an other realm type feel at time when they went into a different realm and everything, like a ghost dead person's realm and everything. The use of like seances and stuff like that, I thought was very clever for the certain characters that they had. It's kind of sad that those characters got completely written out. But there's also a lot of missed storylines that they could have kept going and keep it more in that realistic feel instead of the Scooby-Doo feel they had in season 2 and just this whole witchcraft superhero crap that they had in season 3. And so the show is still trying to get renewed. It has not been renewed yet. All of the stars on the show are just like hashtag renew Nancy Drew season 4, all that stuff. Because as we know, the CW is getting sold and everything to a different company. And when this company buys it, the company is going to decide which shows we're going to keep and which ones we don't. And ratings for this show are constantly dropping like flies and everything. And so they're constantly trying to get this show renewed. But you know what? If this show does get canceled, it's bittersweet. The writers only have themselves to blame for season 3. Season 2, even though season 2 went the Scooby Doo route, it was still good and entertaining for the most part, even though it shifted a whole lot from what the first season was. The characters, like one thing I said when I first reviewed this is that this show was better than the Hardy Boys on Hulu. And I still stand by that in season 1 and a little bit of season 2, tell you the truth. But once we got into season 3, I'm just like, even the Hardy Boys, even though a show I particularly kind of like, kind of didn't, was a lot better than season 3. Um, the characters, there are some characters in here I like. There's one character I don't. And like, one problem I have with this show, and I've mentioned this before, is like when I started like thinking more and more about each season as season 3 was going on, I was just kind of like, this show does not do character development very well. It will start you off on something good and juicy, then it'll drop all that character development just to go into ghost stuff, only to bring back that character development at the very end. And that's how it is with every character on this show. For the most part, you like there's some characters they go in more detail about, and then there are other characters they don't. Like George, we like throughout the course of 3 seasons, we find out a lot about George. In the course of really 1.5 season, we find out some stuff about both Bess and Nick. Ace is just Ace, and Nancy, the main character, you find out more about her in season 1, to tell you the truth, but then you find out more about her family history line in the other 2 seasons. So it's just that weird thing where it's a show that's on the CW that should be very drama focused, and you don't have that much character development. But then we have a lot of character development in season 1 of Nancy herself. This show does do jump scares a lot. Something I've talked about in my old review is that their jump scares never really get me. One reason why is because the cast, when they jump and scream, is kind of hokey. They kind of overdo it. And also, the characters react before the audience does. And so that's kind of annoying. And so you have to react first sometimes before they do. And then when they react in a weird screaming kind of way, then it's kind of like, what you screaming about? Oh, you're screaming at that. Wow, that's good. Now the makeup department and ghost and stuff like that, always done well. The setting is done well. But this show kind of like divided a lot of old school fans because Nancy Drew used to have her own show back in like the 80s and stuff with the Hardy Boys, and there was other Nancy Drew shows. The Nancy Drew actress actually gets started in the first pilot episode, and so of course back then it was straightforward, just like the books, just being like a detective novel. And but then this show, what a lot of people don't realize is that this actually takes source material from the newer books, what had to do with demons and ghosts and the video games and stuff like that. So that kind of confused a lot of fans, and they weren't really into that, kind of like the whole Riverdale thing. But the show doesn't make that like, it kind of confuses you because it has the setting and look of the old school novels, but they throw in all this modern day like demons and monsters and ghosts and stuff. So that kind of confused people, and also confuses people more is that like Nancy has her trademark blue car that she had back in like the older books instead of her blue Mustang like she has in the newer books. But the way Nancy dresses is very old school, that makes you think of the older books. So that kind of divided fans here and there. For me, it's just like, hey, just go with the flow. You know what I'm saying? Just accept it for like what it is. But then, of course, when it just got into season 3, I could not do that no more. And so, let's get into some individual like characters now. let's get into one of my favorite actresses on this show, Leah Lewis. She plays George Fan. Now, George in this show has been both race and gender bent. And George is a very fascinating character. Her character at first, a lot of people did not like, because in season one, she was very rude, very blunt, very non-social, very antisocial, and stuff like that. We find out through the course of 3 seasons why she is the way she is. Her mom is an alcoholic, which I like the actress who plays her mom, but the actress is too likable and everything. So that didn't really like make me think she's this alcoholic who abandons her kids all the time. George is very poor. She lives in a small tiny house where her 2 sisters have to like sleep in the same room, not a bedroom, and they have to separate it with like a sheet, and there's like bunk beds and stuff. She is very, very poor. She's a very hard-working woman. She works at the Claw, which she owns and everything. And so, like, she busts her butt just to make ends meet because her mom doesn't have that much money or jobs to, like, support them. So George supports the entire family. And she's been doing that since she is a teenager. When she was a teenager, she had an affair with Ryan Hudson. He was a married rich guy, and he was married to Tiffany Hudson. And so they had an affair while she was 17. And she used to be friends with Nancy until people started spreading rumors about George, and Nancy didn't stick up for her, so that ruined their friendship. And then when Nancy went away and came back, you know, they finally decided to be friends again, but it was kind of rough. Um, in the pilot, it gets really interesting and juicy because after Tiffany dies, um, George is still trying to rekindle what she had with Ryan, only for it to not work out and for her to get possessed by the ghost of Tiffany Hudson. After that, she just completely calls everything off. But then when she starts to see that um, Nick has broken up with Nancy, she decides she wants Nick and everything. And so they start a relationship, but then it's hard because she's not the touchy-feely type in public. And the reason for that is because of Ryan. At the end, she berates Ryan, talking about, you took advantage of me. I was a teenager. You was the adult. You played on my innocence and everything. And you made me feel like being lovey-dovey and like PDA was like a shameful thing in public and stuff, and that would cause her to be the way she is with Nick. And she said that she's not going to be that way. She's a stronger person and all that other stuff. Now I can understand that point, like him tricking her into wanting to be with her and manipulating her and stuff like that, the way she was probably weak-minded, like a young girl who didn't know much, but she was 17, so she's close to being 18 and an adult. So they should have made her younger to where she was manipulated. I say at 17, you know exactly what you're doing. And sometimes even younger, sometimes you know what you're doing. But a lot of people who are younger get more brainwashed. So they should have had her younger for that character role for when she was with like Ryan and stuff like that. Um, and so like for her to be 17, like she knew what she was doing and stuff like that, but hey, whatever. But then they give her better character development as the seasons and show progress. In season 2, Nick brought the best in her and stuff like that. She's more of an open person and stuff. And then we find out that when it comes to her father, he abandoned them when they was younger. So she has a lot of male issues, but the good thing about Nick, he helps show her that not all guys are terrible, and you know, they're like madly in love and like all that good stuff. Ace is played by Alex Saxon. Ace, the character I do not like. Ace is a very odd, strange little character. He's very blasé. He's very dull. He's very boring. They say in the first episode that like, you know, he's like a pothead and all this other stuff. And when we see him on his cell phone, we see the caller comes up with it says his dealer. But there's never no reference to him ever smoking weed. Like we never seen him smoke weed on the show. He never talked about smoking weed on the show, other than that first episode they said he's a pothead. And so I don't know why they came up with that. However, he is the tech guy. He's really good in the hacking into stuff and really good with computers and electronics and stuff like that. So they use him for the show about that. But the problem is they never really give him anything to do. when they do give him electronic stuff to do, sometimes they'll give partially to him and then partially to somebody else, or they'll just like do it off screen and everything. And it's never that hard hitting, like spy movie thriller, cyber hacking stuff where you see him like constantly trying to like hack into something. It's never like that. And so like he's basically the one who drives a lot of the characters around who don't have cars and stuff, or who has to like leave their car somewhere. His dad is a mute. He can speak a little, but not really. But for the most part, he is deaf, and they had to do ASL, and so that's really interesting about that character. And you see a lot of that in season one, but you don't see that much in season two. His dad is just mean, constantly mean to Ace, cusses him out and everything. They don't really give Ace any really good storylines. Like, he doesn't really do anything. He's a team player and he helps around, but he's one of those type of characters you can literally pluck out the show and you won't forget him or nothing like that. And so they had this weird thing where they had like a dream of Nancy where she kisses Ace, and that completely just like left in the air all the way into the end of season two, and then now in season three, only because they have to ship, and nobody wants to see that. Well, some people do, but I know I don't. Um, but he was in a car accident in one episode where he missed like 2 episodes. Not sure why he missed 2 episodes, but they don't even show him laying in the hospital bed. Maybe he was off doing something else. Like, who knows, you know? But his character, while off screen, was trapped in like this ghost-like realm. And so the kids had to do like, well, they're not really kids, they're like 19 and stuff. They had to do like this seance thing and try to like search for him, and Nancy had to like save him. And that all happens like off screen. And so, like, one thing they tried to make his character interesting was that they gave him a girlfriend in the form of Laura, the sister of Tiffany Hudson. Now, Laura is a very spitfire type character. She's in your face, she's blunt, she's very rich, she doesn't care about you. She only wants to find out who murdered her sister. And when I say she's in your face, she is in your face. She goes to like the funeral of her sister where the Hudson family, the rich family, has set everything up, and she basically like just plays the audio for the 911 call that Tiffany had and everything. And she believes the Hudsons had something to do with it. And she was a very interesting character, only for her to constantly appear and not appear in the series. They should have kept her in more. She was determined to do her own little mystery thing and find out like who murdered her sister off screen, but then it kept writing her off the show in the first season. Then when the Tiffany Hudson murder is finally solved, they completely wrote her character off. Like just off. And she wanted Ace to go with her to Paris and everything. And in the last episode, they wrote her character different. She was no longer in your face. She was just as blah as like Ace was. But he decided that his friends need him and everything, and he's not gonna go. And so she goes off to Paris and is never seen again. She was a very interesting character. She hated Ryan to death. And then when she left, it's kind of like the storyline is like, well, who got Tiffany's money? Tiffany was rich. Ryan wanted her money and married her for like an investment. And so it's kind of like, where did the money go? Did it go to her? Did it go to him? Like, who did it go to? And since Ryan is her brother-in-law, they could have kept her and had more like juicier stuff for her and had the whole Ace thing, but nah. But then when she was dating Ace, she pretty much just used him just to, like, get information. But then it turned out she really did like him. But then it turned out they dated a long time ago. It doesn't make no sense. She doesn't strike you type of person that would date somebody like Ace. So that's never explained, and that was just like a weird storyline. Bess is played by Madison Zazana. I can't really pronounce her last name, but she was a very interesting character, and she was originally my favorite character until season 2 when they made her fall in love with a ghost, and in season 3 when they did the whole witchcraft thing. But in season 1, she was very intriguing. She was this like British woman who talked with a fake American accent. She was a criminal back in like Britain. She had a partner and everything, and she set him up and came here. We find that out in season 2. When she is in season 1, we see her steal the ring of Tiffany Hudson, and made people think that maybe she killed her for like the wealth and everything. But no, it turns out she only steals when she's has anxiety, which had only been brought up 3 times in the 18 episodes. So they really didn't really go too far with that. Ace tries to hit on her at first, but then turns out she's a lesbian. And then she ends up falling in love with like the chauffeur of the Hudson family. It turns out that chauffeur is Lizbeth, and she's really an undercover cop. And so the whole relationship between her and Lizbeth, it was really sweet and it felt very genuine. Even though they didn't really have too many scenes together, because they mostly just deal with the whole like ghost thing and stuff. And so like um but Lizbeth really did love and care for her and stuff like that. Now, one of the main arcs that she had in season one was discovering who her family was. Because she found out she was related to a bunch of people living in America. I forget what race she really is. I think she might be Armenian or she might be Middle Eastern or something like that. Um, she's very gorgeous and everything. All the women on this show are gorgeous and stuff. But like she reminds me of this one British actress from Once Upon a Time in Wonderland. The red queen and stuff. So like with Beth, she's on the hunt for like her family, the Marvins. The Marvins have history with the Hudson family. They don't like them. And so when trying to find like, her family and this and that, she finds some of her relatives, but she's too scared to like meet them until she meets one of them named Owen Marvin. Owen ends up starting a relationship with Nancy after she breaks up with Nick. And so Owen is really the only real family member that only accepts Bess for who she is. Diane, her great aunt, does too for a certain point in time. I'll get into that a little bit later. Now, the entire Marvin family, they are interesting. They are rich. They are stuck up. They are aristocrats. They do not like Bess whatsoever because Bess grew up poor. And they think she just wants all their money and stuff. I think they should have made a spin-off show with the Marvins. It could have been like Dynasty or something like that. But anyways, so he does help her meet the rest of the family. And she meets her great aunt, Diane. Diane loves her from the start. She accepts her for who she is and everything. And so like, she invites her all over to like the house. They have like these parties. She dresses in these fancy clothes. Because Bess was poor when we first see her in the beginning of this season. She was living in her van. And so like that would really intrigue me about her. She's this very poor person with a rich family. And she's this like British person with a fake American accent. And she always steals and stuff like that. And so then she starts living with Nancy for a while until she finds out, I think, like Nancy accused her of like killing what's her face. Then she's back to living in her van. And so like I don't know if she lives with her family, the Marvins or not. It's never really explained. But then when Owen is murdered and everything, her aunt wants her to find out all she can from her girlfriend, Lizbeth. Because Lizbeth is a cop, which Lizbeth is not supposed to say because Lizbeth is doing an investigation and stuff. And so, like, this causes a little conflict between her and Lizbeth. Bess is like the most scared out of all characters. Every time she sees like a ghost, she's always screaming. She always believes in the paranormal and stuff. It turns out that the Marvins, one of the Marvins, I think Bess's uncle, was murdered by Everett Hudson, which is Ryan Hudson's father and everything. The Marvins and the Hudsons have huge beef with each other. But the Marvins are some people that are interesting and they feel like they're shady. They could have been so much more they could have done in previous seasons. They have a hall of horrors, which is all their family members who dead in paintings and stuff. Some of those people, you gotta wonder how they end up murdered. This could have been so much good, juicy meat for season 2 and 3 with the Marvin family and Nancy Drew. But that whole storyline ended in season 2 when Bess's stealing partner wanted her to steal from like her family. She does, only for him to set her up so her aunt can get pissed and then be like, oh, you're out of the family. I'm writing you out the family. And it's just like that in one episode. And she knew the cause of why Bess did what she did, but she just didn't care. That was so badly written. This is when season 2 started bugging me. And so, like, then when the whole clayca thing started happening in season 2, Bess decides to break up with Lizbeth because she was afraid that she might die, and she don't want Lizbeth to have to see all that. And so she's just like written off the show. And then in season 2, Bess falls in love with a dead ghost who's in the body of George. And then in season 2, she does all this witchcraft stuff. And I just feel like they took a really interesting character and just like pissed all on her and stuff. Now Nick is played by Tanji Carson, and he's actually an Irish actor with an Irish accent, with a fake American accent, and he does a really good American accent. I'm surprised he's Irish. I'm not joking. I've never seen a black Irish person before. I didn't even know they existed, because every time I watch a show from Ireland, I never saw no black people. Every time I saw like an American show that was like filmed in ancient Ireland, never no black people. I even asked this one actress who is Irish, are there any black folks over there? She's like, yes. And they're rarely seen on TV, and it's something she's very ashamed about. So yeah, that's like really interesting. Ned Nickerson. He is originally the boyfriend of Nancy Drew. Now, Nick has been race bent. He's been race bent in this show. Nick is a very cool character. I like his character. He's like one of the nicest characters on the show, but he has a dark past. And he has a past that links him to that of Tiffany Hudson. See, a long time ago, Tiffany was in danger of this guy, and Nick tried to save her, resulting in him murdering this man. And so he had to do jail time for that. And so, like, because of that, Nancy's father, Carson, he doesn't want her around Nick because of his criminal past. Nick is a mechanic. He lives with this guy who is Lucy Sable's, he works for Lucy Sable's brother. When Nick is dating Nancy, he brought out the best in her. He told her, look, I'm not here just to be your friends with benefits, which is what they start out being. He wants the real thing. That causes Nancy to open up and start doing relationships and stuff, and start with him. He is her one true love, I feel like. But of course, Nancy is Nancy, and she accuses everybody of murdering this person and that person. And so when he tried to tell her, like, look, I think your dad is suspicious because of some things he did. You might want to look into that. She doesn't want to. That causes him to be kind of pissed. They're like, well, you can accuse me, but you can't accuse him. And then when she's dating Nick, she starts to have eyes for Owen and starts to flirt with him. All in front of Nick. This pisses him off to the point where, like, you know what? We are done. I give him kudos for being the one to end things with her. And so, like, after that, he just does his own thing, but then he finds out that Owen and Nancy slept together. This causes George to like pounce, and then they start dating and everything. Nick, his relations to Tiffany Hudson and why Nancy thought that he murdered her. See, she was like his counselor, and she tried to help him. Well, she wasn't his counselor, but she tried to help him, free him and everything, because she knows he murdered in self-defense and stuff like that. Because she was so like grateful for that, she left him tons of money because he came from Florida and didn't have much, and he was living in the mechanic shop and everything. So because of that, his life is a whole lot more better now because of her. And he was very adamant on finding out who murdered Tiffany Hudson, because she did so much for him to change his life around. And so it's like he's one of those few characters in the show who's just all around nice and everything. Now, Nancy Drew herself, played by Kennedy McMahon. And what's so interesting about that name is Vincent Kennedy McMahon Jr., Vince McMahon from the WWE. So her name is similar to his. That's kind of like cool. She is the hero of the show. She was like a young girl, and she started off being a young detective. She grew up learning about the legend of Lucy Sable and like the ghost stories, and she was very fascinated by that. She wanted to help people in need, so she became a detective. Because of that, she didn't get along with the cops and everything. And so, like, when she grew up, she tried to go to college, but then she kind of like didn't really apply and came back home. Her mother died of cancer, and it really shook her to her core and everything. And so growing up, she remembers seeing a repressed memory of like her mom and dad burying like a pink dress and putting it in the attic when she finds it. See, she works at the Claw with the rest of the group, and then when she was there giving the food to Tiffany Hudson, Tiffany ended up dead. Everybody thinks that the whole people at the Claw did it. She has to free their innocence, so that's what causes her to investigate this story. Something she has not done in a long time. She hasn't done detective work in forever. This leads her to the murder of Lucy Sable and everything. So it turns out that Lucy Sable. See, what happened was this. See, Ryan used to date Lucy Sable when he was in high school. His father, Everett, found out and didn't like the idea that he was dating a poor girl. So he forced Ryan to like give her up. But then they secretly dated, only for Lucy to end up pregnant that she hid from everybody. Everett, and then so like Cecile, who is Ryan's mother, threatened her when she found out that Cecile had an affair on Everett. Then Everett, of course, threatened Lucy, calling her all kind of bad names and all this other stuff, pretending to be Ryan. So she felt like she had nobody and no one, so she committed suicide and everything. And so, like, at this time, nobody knew that. So when Nancy started, like, doing her investigation and stuff, one clue led to another and another and another. And then it turned out that Nancy was that baby and everything. The baby of Lucy and Ryan. So she is very like shaken up by this and everything because she does not like Ryan whatsoever. And she thought that her father was like Carson Drew and her mother was her actual mother, but it wasn't. And found out she's been lied to this entire time. And so like this like really just devastates her. But she still has like, stuff to like do and solve. So when she solved the Tiffany Hudson murder, which happened very early in the season, like I said, it led her to Lucy Sable and everything. Um, because at one point, what is it? Nancy's uncle Joshua. It turns out that he blamed. I'm losing my thought. It's cold. Like I'm trying to stay warm, and the heater is like barely doing what it's supposed to do. So anyway, Nancy's uncle Joseph. He thought that Ryan murdered Lucy, so he wanted revenge and wanted to murder Ryan because of that. He is the one who accidentally murdered Tiffany. See, he got some poison, and he got some poison from a cop that like knew Lucy and stuff. And so he planted the poison in Ryan's food, only for Ace to get the order missed wrong and give it to Tiffany instead. And that what killed her. He didn't mean to kill Tiffany. He just wanted for Ryan. See, he's a ruthless dude, but he doesn't want to hurt nobody, just the people he's after. Nancy figures this out before she finds out she's related to him. So then he tries to kill her. He electrocutes himself. He gets away. And then after that, he has a vendetta against like Nancy. And so he knows Nancy is dating Owen. So he sneaks into a mansion. I don't know how, but he does. And he tells all the people, family members are there. He tells um, Owen that like just call Nancy. I want to kill her. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. So he kills Owen and everything. Somehow all this happened when everybody's at the party. Nobody heard nothing. And so when Nancy finds all this out, because she confronts him, because she goes to visit her grandmother, who is mentally disabled and has like Alzheimer's or dementia or something like that. And so the grandma lets her know, well, he's still here and like the mental ward and everything. So they go looking for him and she finds him and he's trying to kill Nancy. Nancy's all like, look, Lucy killed herself. Ryan didn't do it. And you need to believe me. You need to believe that I am your niece. He doesn't really want to believe it at first, but then he tries to like kill himself by jumping off the ledge. But then she saves him. And then after that, that's it. We never see her uncle or grandmother again from the Sable side. And I'm just kind of like, why not? Like Nancy has kind of like forgotten all the writers have forgotten all about her grandmother that's still alive, and her uncle who's in prison. Never been brought back up. They've never gone to visit. Like nothing. She has completely forgotten. That's the storyline that's completely wasted. You know what I'm saying? Like, here she is, this person who doesn't know who her real family is, and there they are, and she can go visit them, but she never does because she's too busy dealing with the whole Hudson crap. And so when she was trying to prove her adoptive father's innocence, she needed the bones of Lucy Sable and doing DNA tests and all this other stuff. So she did this ancient ritual which summoned the clayca. And so when you ask for this thing and it grants your wish, it has to take the blood from somebody else. It tried to take it from Owen. And so she prevented that. When she prevented that, they've all now been cursed. And one of them is going to die. And like I said before, they each see how they're going to die and everything, which is very traumatic. That leads into the second season. Now, Lucy Sable was played by two different actresses. The human one, the teenage one, was played by Stephanie Van Dyke. And she never has no like speaking scenes, but we see her very ominously and stuff like that. And like I said before, she dated Ryan. She was in love with Ryan. She got pregnant, got threatened by Everett. He made the entire town think she was a whore and everything, and that she slept her way to the top. And so when she thought Ryan hated her, and all this other crap, and her mom lost her job because of all the rumors and stuff, she decided to commit suicide. When before she does that, she delivers Nancy. There's blood all over the dress. The umbilical cord is cut by a steak knife that belonged to the Drews, which is why their DNA was on it. And so, like, she tells them, take my baby away and raise this baby and keep him away from, like, the Hudsons and everything. Then she jumps off the cliff. All they could find was just her dress, because the clayca took her and everything. And the demonic version of Lucy Sable is played by Lizzie Boyes. Why did I get those two names mixed up? One of them's one of them. Anyway. Raleigh Smith played Ryan Hudson, and when he starts off, he's a scumbag. He's sleazy. He's dirty. He preys on underage girls when he's an adult. He has an affair on Tiffany. His whole marriage with Tiffany was a sham. See, because of some bad investments, his dad Everett decided to like shut him off financially, so he married Tiffany just to get like her money and stuff like that, and he tried to get it after she was dead. I don't know what happened to this money. I forgot what happened in the second season. He has, like I said, he had an affair with George when she was 17. He was married to Tiffany. He is just the scummiest of like scumbags and everything, and he's written like that for the entirety of the show. And so he's just a rich prick and everything. When he finds out that Lucy might have been pregnant when he's talking to Nancy, he starts to change. He's all like, he wants to be in the baby's life and all this other stuff, and he's devastated and heartbroken. She's about to confess to him until he finds out about the ritual. She needs his blood and everything for the clayca thing. And so he doesn't understand why, but she doesn't tell him that she's related to him. And then she tells him that Owen almost died because the clayca tried to take his life. So he decided, he's all like, now if I don't do this ritual, does that mean the clayca's going to go after and torture or kill Owen? Because I would like to see that happen. Nancy is shocked by this, and she's like, you can't be serious. And he's like, I am serious. You know how my family is. Like, we don't like the Marvins and stuff like that. And if like Owen, he wouldn't help Ryan, so if he can end up dying, he'll be happy about that. Nancy is furious. She mouths off to him. He leaves her on the side of like a cliffside road and everything. And so like after that, he finds out Nancy is like his daughter. And now all of a sudden they wrote him better. He's completely turned around. In season 2, he fights with Carson because they fight over the love and affection of Nancy. And then after those two get along, boom, he is like one of the nicest guys on the show. They did a complete like 360 or 180, whatever we call it, turn on his character. It makes no sense. How does he go being a sleazebag for the rest of his life, only for him to find out, oh, hey, look, I have a daughter. I'm the nicest guy in the world now. They ruined his character and everything. Like, And it's only brought up once that, hey, George slept with Nancy's dad and everything. And Nick used to sleep with both George and Nancy. So yeah, that's never really brought up that much and stuff. And I don't understand it. And another missed opportunity is the whole love triangle between Nancy and like George and like Nick, which I've explained in many videos, so I'm not really gonna go into detail now. So let me get into Carson and stuff. Not much about him. He played by Scott Wolf. He is the adoptive father of like Nancy. He kept that from her his entire life. He was the fixer for the Hudson family. He is a lawyer. He started dating this like detective lady. Turns out she was using him just to get information. Turns out that detective lady was working with Nancy's uncle to try to murder Ryan because they thought Ryan killed her and stuff. Lucy Sable. So other than that, him and Nancy have this on again, like love hate relationship because at first he didn't like Nick, and then he represented Nick when Nick got in trouble, and then Nancy found out that he's been keeping stuff from her, and so like at the end she just doesn't want nothing to do with him, and that leads all the way to the beginning of season 2 until it's reconciled. Now one interesting thing is when he was in jail for the murder of Lucy Sable, he almost got shanked. Who hired that? Everett Hudson. And so that never really gets brought up anymore. Now let's get into Everett. Everett Hudson is just evil. He's played by a different actor in season 1 and a different actor in season 2. Everett is the father of Ryan, the father of Ryan, and the wife or husband of Cecile. Cecile just is mean too, but Cecile gets redeemed somehow in season 2 when she finds out who Nancy is, and just like that, they get redeemed. I don't understand that. And so Everett is evil. Everett owned like a boat, and he had all the 14 people on that boat murdered. And so he ended up having one of the Marvins murdered. I'm trying to think. Yeah, he tried to have like Carson murdered and everything. And in season 2, we found out he murdered his own brother. There are plenty of bodies that he's had people murdered and stuff like that. And so he's a big bad. And so he's the one who caused Lucy Sable to commit suicide, but he doesn't go to jail for that. And so he's just this like dude in the shadows that barely is barely seen in the show. And so, but he's always like making stuff happen. And so a missed opportunity was like also just in season 2, it's shown that he's a bit bad again. And they don't always really do stuff with that, but they always bring him back up. And then he gets arrested for the murder of his brother. But then now in season 3, I don't think he's even shown, to tell you the truth. Maybe he is or not. I'm not really sure. I don't think Nancy, he knows that Nancy is his granddaughter. He might now because I stopped watching season 3, so I don't really know. But like Cecile ends up dead, and they assume he had her murdered because she found out who Nancy really was. Nope, it was a secret organization, kind of like an Illuminati thing that killed Cecile because they hate the Hudsons and they hate Everett. This secret organization has not been brought up since, and so it's like, why like leave out this missed opportunity and everything, you know? That could have been great recurring villains and more realism for season 3 and other seasons with the whole Everett thing, but no, they went the whole Scooby-Doo monster route and everything. And you know, I just don't understand why create such a great character, a great villain, just to do the Scooby-Doo thing and the witch thing. I don't understand that by the writers, and so that really pissed me off and stuff. And so it's like now we get into the whole clayca thing because it's related to the Hudsons. The clayca, which is like this ancient like sea creature. It used to be a woman named Odette Lamar. She was an heiress, but then she was executed by the governess because I think she had like an affair with somebody. I think it was the governess or something like that, and they found out because no LGBT stuff back then. So they killed her and all that other stuff. Her soul became like very vengeful, and so basically if like it was like a legend where like young people will like wish for stuff, and if she grants your wish, she wants something in return. Whoever like asks for the wish, their eyes will bleed, Then, like, she'll take like blood offerings from one of the people. If you break that ritual, which Nancy and her friends did, then she'll go after one of them. She tried to go after Owen. They broke it. So then she went after all of them. If she goes after all of you, she makes you see like have all these weird like the ring type visions. Your hair falls out. Um, there's like seawater in your shoes. There's like bugs and other stuff like fingers and other stuff coming out like your body parts. Like it's really gross. Then it turns into like sand. And so like it's basically like letting you know, hey, I'm coming for you and everything. And so like you will die the way she predicts in like her visions. And there's a way to beat her, and they beat her in season two. Now it is revealed that she was actually summoned once, the very first time, by the Women in White, a group of witches. And one of those people was Tempest Hudson, which is one of Nancy's like ancestors and stuff. That's when I started like getting annoyed by season two. And then of course in season three and stuff. Yeah, they really messed that up. Now, like I said before, Odette, she ends up she ends up killing George, and then she ends up going inside her body and staying there for the better part of season three. And so she's slowly killing George, but she falls in love with Bess. This is what really irritated me in season two. Victoria Pham, played by Liza Lapira. She is George's mother. George, alcoholic. Um, Neglectful mother. She has, I think, three daughters. She divorced because her husband like walked off, and because of that, her family is poor. All she does is just drink herself all day, and she doesn't really attend to stuff. I think she has a job. I'm pretty sure George doesn't pay for like all the bills, but her and George has a very strained relationship. It's kind of hard because the actress who plays her, I really like her. And she's such a likable person. She doesn't come off as the neglectful, I don't like you type. She's too charming for that. Also, like, she's so young looking. Like, she doesn't even look like she could play a mother. But she has some importance in a few of the episodes early on because she would do like these like Asian seance like rituals to help the gang out and everything. Like whenever they had to like put Tiffany's body soul back in like the body grave, whatever, she helped with that. When Tiffany possessed George's body, she was very adamant in like getting her out her daughter's body and stuff. She was also very helpful in letting the kids know that, hey, the clayca's nobody to mess with. You have to do this kind of ritual to like get rid of it and stuff like that. So she was very helpful, and it's quite a shame that they wrote her off the show after like the first season because she was extremely helpful to the gang because they didn't know anything about all this seance and magical stuff. And then all of a sudden, season two, they start becoming like experts and all this other crap. So they lost a really good character, in my opinion. And so it's like also like I don't know. It's just she didn't overstep her boundaries. She was only in a few episodes. She was there when needed, and like that was that. The last is Hannah Grinn. She is like the historical caretaker of like boxes and stuff. She's the one who had the videotape of Tiffany Hudson and showed it to Nancy, which led Nancy to Lucy Sable's like house where she found out that she was pregnant with the whole journal and stuff like that. Her character is very like she only shows up like twice. The dude what I just told you, and also when Nancy and them go to her about the whole clayca thing, they're all like, "Oh yeah, we got rid of the clayca, blah blah. It killed like Owen," and she's all like, "No, since y'all broke the ritual, the clayca kills y'all all at once, so y'all didn't get rid of it and stuff." So that's how they found out Owen was actually murdered and not by the clayca. And so she shows up a little bit more in season 2, and I think that was her I saw in season 3, but I'm not really sure. Now, in the book, she's actually Nancy's caretaker and stuff from when her mom dies. And also in season 2, they could have brought back Lucy Sable and out of some type of ghost form, either in her normal looking form or her demonic form, because you know we found out Cecile threatened Lucy when Lucy found out she had an affair and everything. And also not only that, but why wouldn't Nancy want to talk to her mother? It's just something she's never really done. She's only seen the demonic form and everything. And it's just why I missed that opportunity just to go the Scooby-Doo route. So I do love season 1. I think season 1 is very good. I love the narration. I love like a lot of the characters, except for one. And I think it was just done very more realistically. And then it just went kind of hokey in season 2 and nuts in season 3. I wish the show would go back to what it is, but it never will, because now it has a new loyal fan base of like the whole monster weird stuff and stuff like that. The monsters in season 2, they were fine. It just every week it just got kind of annoying and everything. And because of this whole ghost monster thing, you don't get much character development with your characters, which kind of sucks and everything. There was so many drop storylines that just went nowhere in the rest of the series that I wish they would bring back up. I want to know more about that organization that killed Cecile. I would like for Nancy to go visit her other relatives that she never tries to go and visit. They're still alive, you know what I'm saying? I wish they would bring the Marvins back, and you know, so they can feud more with the Hudsons. That would be so great, and we can find out more about them and all the people they killed and the people who like, oh, I want you to solve this murder and everything. That would have been so much like better in my opinion. What they did to Beth's character was just a shame. Like there was so much great material they could have kept with her, and they just squandered that. They need to do something with Ace. Like, no joke. They need to do something with that dude, like, bad. And stuff. And so Nancy, even in season 2, she doesn't narrate no more. She doesn't blame her friends no more because she has no reason to blame them. She doesn't really blame nobody else. She's always, like, she became way too smart in season 2. Even smarter than the historical, like, museum people. And that got kind of annoying very fast and stuff. So, yeah. I do hope this season this show gets picked up for a season 4. I hope they fix it. But it seems like now at the end of season 3, they got zombies on their hands. So that's what it looks like all these like dug up graves and the people coming out. So I can only think of dead people and their dead bodies, zombies. That's the only thing I can think of. So yeah. Alrighty. Well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.